The first step to the P15 Pocket Make Ready is to put the sucker swing cam follower into high dwell and to verify that the feed cam follower is also in high dwell. The standard for this is it is necessary to have the sucker swing cam follower on high dwell to check the height and the depth of the sucker bar. Let's go check.
To place the sucker swing cam follower into high dwell, we'll put a stop on and open up the pocket guard. At this point, we'll disengage the pocket by releasing the clutch and move the pocket by hand. By moving it by hand, we can position the sucker swing cam follower into high dwell. We'll look onto the other side of the pocket to verify that the feed cam follower is also in high dwell. Now that we're done, we'll close the pocket guard and take off the stop and move on to step 2, checking the back plate position. The hopper position is 90 degrees to the back plate. To check this position, we'll rest the pocket gauge onto the hopper against the back plate. Here you'll see there's a gap, so we'll need to adjust. To adjust, we'll loosen the bolts on each side of the hopper frame, and then this will allow us to raise up the hopper so it's 90 degrees to the back plate. Here we'll check and we see that it is flush, so it is 90 degrees, and we'll tighten both bolts on the frame.
In this step, we will be setting the height of the restricting needles. The standard for this is the tip of each needle will just touch the 1/4 inch step of the pocket gauge. Let's go check.
To check, we place the pocket gauge on the hopper where the 1/4 inch cutout is above the restriction needle. At this point, we will adjust the restriction needle to raise or lower so the tip of the needle is just touching the 1/4 inch cutout of the pocket gauge. Here you'll see that it's just touching, so we can move on to the next step.
In this step, we will set the height of the governor pin. The standard for this step is the tip of the governor pin will be 1/32 of an inch above the bevel of the pocket gauge when the gauge is placed against the restricting needles. Let's go.
To check the height of the governor pin, place the pocket gauge on the hopper resting against the restriction needle. Here you'll see the governor pin is not above the bevel. So we'll adjust it, and you can see by adjusting it, we're raising up the governor pin so it's above the 32nd inch bevel of the pocket gauge.
In this step, we will set the depth of the governor pin. The standard for this step is when the feed cam follower is in high dwell and a pocket gauge is placed against the restricting needles, the governor pin will just touch the pocket gauge.
With the pocket gauge still in the hopper, we can check the depth of the governor pin. We want it just touching the pocket gauge. We'll loosen the jam nut on the feed rod and turn the feed rod so the governor pin is just touching the pocket gauge.
In this step, we will set the height of the sucker bar. The standard for this is when the sucker swing cam follower is in high dwell and a pocket gauge is resting against the restricting needles, the sucker cups will be aligned with the 16th inch step of the pocket gauge. Let's go check.
To check the height of the sucker bar, we still have the pocket gauge on the hopper resting against the restriction needle. Here you can see the sucker bar is a little high off the pocket gauge. To adjust, we're going to loosen up the sucker bar, and then we have the knobs on top where we can lower or raise the sucker bar. And here we're going to be lowering it to the 16th inch groove on the pocket gauge. And then we'll just tighten down both sides of the sucker bar so it does not move.
In this step, we will set the depth of the sucker bar. The standard for this step is when the sucker swing cam follower is in high dwell and a pocket gauge is resting against the restricting needles, the sucker cups will rest evenly in the 16th inch step of the pocket gauge. Let's go check.
To check the depth of the sucker bar, we want the pocket gauge against the restriction needle so we can verify that the cups are resting evenly into the 16th inch groove. To adjust the sucker bar, we'll loosen the clamp screw on the control arm. Then we'll position the sucker cups so they rest evenly in the 16th inch groove and tighten down the clamp screw.
To complete the hopper portion of the P15 make ready, we'll be setting the rails, the stripping needle, the hold down guides, and the airlines. The standard for this is the side guides and hold down guides will ensure that the signature feeds smoothly and reliably from the hopper to the main drum. Let's go check.
Take the form that you're feeding out of the pocket and fold it in half. This gives us the center of the form. We'll position the fold against the governor pin. With the form centered onto the hopper, we can set the guides. Move the guides in and then tighten them down. Move the hold down guides so they're just touching the lap of the form. Once the hold down guide set, we'll set the stripping needle so it's just in the middle of the lap. Place the lift of forms into the pocket and make any necessary adjustments. Place an example of the form above the pocket. The last thing to do on the hopper is to set your air. Depending on the form would dictate the position of the airline. Here being the cover, we're positioning it 1/4 inch off the back plate.